Hello, and welcome to Nostalgia Marcana. I'm your host, Doug Leaf. Each episode of this podcast, we'll look back on the movies, TV, games, people, and phenomena that we still love talking about all these years later, and ask ourselves why these bits of pop culture still enchant us today. This week, we'll be revisiting...
peanut butter and jelly, popcorn and M&Ms, slaying demons and then telling people where to build shit. All of these are two great tastes that taste great together. Today we are doing an episode on ActRaiser, and I apologize, this is a little bit of a break glass in case of episode. We were planning on recording an episode this week on Crash Bandicoot. Unfortunately, there was a bit of an act of God that scuttled the recording, and so that got me thinking about acts of God, and that led me to ActRaiser, which is a video game released for the Super Famicom system in Japan in late 1990, and shortly thereafter for the American Super Nintendo Entertainment System. For those who don't know, ActRaiser is a game that marries two very, very different gameplay modes, all under the umbrella of rebuilding a decimated world as its deity. This is a game where you play as God, or at least as certain agents of God, to rebuild the world. It was a really unique and interesting concept for a game, especially in 1990. Nothing like this had been done before, at least nothing that I'm aware of. And this is one I'm super nostalgic for. Believe it or not, I didn't actually own this game, but I remember a friend of mine owned it, and I cherished going over to his house to be able to get my hands on it, because what it did was so unique. It really was two completely different games lashed together in one, in a package that, like, this is truly one of those things where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So if you're not a gamer, I'm going to do my best in this episode to sell for you just how unique an experience this was, and not just that it was unusual, but that it is very good. But all of the different components come together in a way that's incredibly satisfying and really accessible. This game, other than the last 5% of it, is not particularly hard. So there's something really, this one has become gaming comfort food for me. Every couple of years, I'll pull this one out and go like, yeah, I feel like revisiting it. Even though there's really nothing new there to experience and replay, like there's just something very sweet about it. There have been efforts to revive this. There, as I'll talk about later, there was a direct sequel. There was a spiritual successor that was created, and then there was a grounds up remake done of this game, but none of them capture the magic of this original game. So let me start with the basics about what this is. This is a game developed by a company called Quintet. This is the first of 4 big games for them, and 3 where you really embody this godlike character that revives a decaying world. None of these games are literal sequels to each other, but they all revolve around this same unique concept. And there is something incredibly satisfying to watching the world revive at your efforts. It's good to be the king, and it is good to be the king, capital T, capital K. There's something very nice about being beseeched for favors by your followers and granting them. So the game opens with this bit of plot. We find out that there was a war between, in the Japanese, God and Satan. In America, between the Master and Tanzra. That was done because Nintendo of America had some pretty strict standards about how religious stuff could be incorporated into games. So they toned down the religious imagery slightly, or at least changed things around so they weren't obviously identifiable, even though it's still pretty clear what kinds of references they're making. There's just one layer removed there to satisfy everybody. So you find out that, that basically God got his ass kicked in this war somehow, that he retreated to his palace in the sky, and that in the interim, all the remaining humans were subjugated to and became monsters under the rule of these 6 high-ranking demons under Tanzra's regime. So that's where the game picks up. You are awakened by this little cherubic angel and told, get to work, you got to revive the world. And so you do. First thing that happens is the game treats you to something that was very new at the time, something called Mode 7, which was the Super Nintendo's ability to take a flat 2D image and bend it around, to stretch it, to make it bigger, to make it smaller, to twist it into shapes. That was a huge revelation at the time, and they would even treat you to the title of the game being warped around as this incredible fanfare plays. One thing I want to highlight here, you'll hear it throughout this episode, is the music by Yuzo Koshiro. This soundtrack is incredible, even for its day. This was something that blew people away, and in fact, we've done 2 episodes on other games of the era, Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, these games that are like renowned for probably being 1 and 2 as the greatest game soundtracks ever made. The composers of those games were so blown away by this one that they knew they had to up their ante when it came time for them to record their soundtracks for those games. So this one has been played over and over again in various like video game concert settings. And again, there were remixes done. There was a symphonic mix that was released, and then the revival or ActRaiser Renaissance, the remake, they had him come back and compose new tracks and new arrangements for the game. So anyway, so you hover your little sky palace over the world. You can zoom in and out and see the 6 different nations that make up this planet. And you head down into Fillmore to begin the first stage, which is the first gameplay mode is side-scrolling hack and slash. Think Castlevania. You as this mote of light come down and embody a statue of God, the master, who is this, kind of warrior-looking dude with a sword, and you do classic hack and slash stuff. You go left to right, and you hack away at things with your sword. You will eventually, through the course of the game, gain access to magical spells to also use against enemies. You make it to the end, and you kick the crap out of this giant centaur. That frees up the world to be revived in the next gameplay mode. So the second part of the gameplay, this is the M&Ms to the popcorn that makes this really sing, is this city building mode of the game. So now you've gone from traditional, like I said, left to right hack and slash to Sim City. You command your followers to rebuild the world on this map that's sort of a little grid. As they grow and develop, they will develop technologies. They will learn how to build better housing and increase the population, which the more population, the stronger you become as a god because you are powered by their beliefs. While you're doing this, you are being harried by demons. So there are these little tiles on the map that are like monster closets, that little different types of demons will come out, and you play as this little cherub, and you fire arrows at them and use magic spells. So you have to balance rebuilding your city with also keeping these monsters at bay so they don't kidnap the populace, destroy the town, etc. So you're sort of managing your time between, tamping those guys down. Eventually, if you instruct your villagers to build to where the monster lair is, they will seal it up for you, and then no more monsters come out of that area. They can build on it. There will also be little cute challenges where, say, there's a monster lair that is on an island because it's separated by a river. You will eventually get your villagers to a point where they can build a bridge. You build a bridge across the river. Now you can take care of the monster closet. That is sort of the general moment-to-moment mode of this, but you use acts of God both offensively and defensively during this. So, for example, you will start the game with the ability to send lightning down from heaven and destroy things. Now, you can use that to kill monsters once in a while, but the other thing you can do is you can use it to blast trees away or rocks to clear land so that your villagers can develop things. Meanwhile, as this is going on, your villagers will communicate with you. They will... your cherub will let you know that people have come to pray, and you can go and listen to their prayers, and they will tell you about things you should do, things they need, places you can direct them. So sometimes it'll be something simplistic and cute. They will tell you that they have found some unusual artifact on the edge of town, and you will lead them to that area, and that will unearth a token that will increase your abilities in the game somehow. You'll get a new magic spell, you will get more health, you will have a mechanical reward for doing that task. Other times they're more about plot and about theming. So they will be there to teach you, for example, they'll tell you like a child got lost, and you need to go find him, or I think in that case, you find, unfortunately, his body. And the villagers learn more about mortality and things like that, the fleeting nature of their human existence. But they are there. They will worship you and love you no matter what you do. This is not like a morality system where you can smite them and they will rue your name and convert to another religion. But speaking of smiting, one thing you can do in the game is use these acts of God, weather type spells, to clear away the village. Because if you want to have the maximum population density, the little huts your guys built at the beginning are not nearly as good as the houses they will build later on. So you need to clear out the old huts. The only way to do that is sometimes to send, say, fire or an earthquake to decimate the land, Old Testament style, because when they will rebuild much bigger and better. It's not explicitly instructed for you to do that, and the villagers don't react to you the way they would say most people react to God doing things like this. You are always, in theory, a kind and benevolent God. You are not the God that sends children brain cancer and such, like, the real God, or, commands them not to eat certain shit for no real reason other than to make them miss out on good parts of life. So, no, you are always the kind and benevolent God who serves all of the people. There is no other religion except there is one island in the game where people are worshiping something evil, which quickly, of course, is sussed out to be one of these demons in disguise that you will go and defeat. So, a very monotheistic religion. They don't get into other equally valid faiths warring with each other like in real life. Thankfully, that this game is too cute to deal with that level of nightmare that we all live with in real life as religions go to war with each other. So after you've raised up this Fillmore village up to a certain point, they start freaking out and they can't build anymore and they can't do anything, and they tell you that they've unearthed a gateway into something awful, and you head down there for your second round of hacking and slashing and killing in gameplay mode number 1 to defeat the primary boss of the area. Each of the 6 levels or lands of this world are the same pattern. There's you hack and slash to clear the way to be able to build. You build up your little village, and then you kill the final boss that is haunting that area, and then you move on to the next one. So each level is 2 of 1 and 1 in the middle. This building area. What is nice is that every once in a while these building areas talk to each other. So you will build a road that goes from Fillmore to next door Bloodpool, the second village. You will find that the villagers in Bloodpool are very, very sad at one point. They are despondent until you go to another village that teaches you a form of music that you can then bring back to Bloodpool. And when you teach them that music, they cheer up and they begin to build anew, and their civilization advances. So I really enjoy the way these little interplays happen between one village and another. They don't happen often, but they happen just often enough to make the world feel a little more interconnected. And so each of these areas has kind of their own flavor. Fillmore is sort of, European, or rather Greek, I should say. It's kind of more like, like ancient Greece or Rome. The Bloodpool is very medieval England in its sort of theming, and literally there is a giant lake of blood that is being caused by a nearby vampiric type demon that you will slay. Cassandora, the next one, has an Egyptian flair. It's a big desert that you have to clear the entire desert by making it rain and making it lush, and the land becomes verdant and fertile. You will then go to, is it Marana? No, Aitos, I think. I forget. There's there's one that's kind of like feudal Japan. Then there's Marana, which is kind of, I think, like the Philippines, like kind of a tropical island setting. And then finally, the last one in like the mountains, which is sort of like, say Norway, somewhere up north. Again, throughout these different villages, you'll have these kind of little short stories being told, in addition to your sort of basic gameplay challenges of, say, like Marana, the island. You want to build it up, but there's very little land mass. In fact, you can cause an earthquake to cause some areas to increase in land mass, and then you build on them. But it is small. that is that one. Others offer different challenges. There's more monsters. The monsters are tougher. You have to work harder to keep them at bay while you do your building and construction. But I think those are the parts of the game that kind of remain with me the most. I find them, as a city builder, it's not as complicated as something like SimCity. So, for example, in classic SimCity, you will build up areas in your city by building specific roads to commercial, industrial, and residential zones. And you have to deal with funding. Here, there's none of that. You just tell your people to build in a particular direction, and they will just build more houses and things. You don't tell them what specifically to build. You just build more. And that simplicity should hurt the game. But this is where that kind of peanut butter and chocolate thing comes together, because yes, any individual aspect of this game is sort of too simple. There's not much there, but again, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Doing all of these little things together make for a gestalt of a really satisfying experience of being a deity who is reviving the world in this manner. The game kind of culminates at the end. You go to the Helheim, or whatever it's called, the world of the devils. You do a boss rush, meaning you take all of the main bosses from each of the 6 areas and you have to fight them consecutively with no breaks in between before beating Tanzra. This is the part of the game that is impossibly hard. I don't know that I've ever beaten it that way. I think the only times I've ever beaten it, I've had to sort of cheat, emulate it and use my ability to say rewind the game or do things over to avoid taking hits, because it's just too freaking hard. But if you can do it, of course, you are treated to this sweet ending of your Sky Palace, visiting each of these areas and finding that they have now progressed to an area where they no longer need God's direct intervention to help them. They've grown to self-sufficiency. And at that point, you return to slumber and everything's fine. And that's ActRaiser. That's the game. It is just an incredibly satisfying experience. You can complete it relatively quickly. And I would encourage you, if you can get your hands on it, either through emulation, or I'm not sure if it's on, like, say, the Nintendo Switch's virtual console, do it. I mentioned there was a sequel release. There was ActRaiser 2, which came out in 1993. The problem with ActRaiser 2 is it's only the side-scrolling hack and slash stuff. There is none of the city building in there. And to me, that absolutely robs this of the quintessentially unusual thing that made it work. I think I probably like the city building stuff more than the hack and slash stuff, despite how easy it is. Again, there's something very comforting about this smooth, easygoing gameplay experience. People will support ActRaiser 2. They'll stand by it and say it's a good game. It is much harder, much harder than the original side-scrolling parts were. You do have a pair of wings that let you fly around, which is cool. But I've never come close to beating it, and I haven't had the impetus to try, because those little cute story beats are what made this special. And without that, it's just, it feels very, same old, same old. There's lots of games like that. So it doesn't have that uniqueness or staying power. And then the thing went into hibernation. There were no further ActRaiser titles made. Quintet made 2 more games, Soul Blazer and Terranigma, both of which, as I mentioned, involved this idea of a deity resurrecting the world, but they don't have, they have a very different gameplay mode than ActRaiser does. It's not a direct sequel. They're just sort of similar in terms of their motifs and the themes that they're dealing with. So both of them are great games. Recommend them. I actually recorded an episode of Side Quests on Soul Blazer, so look for that. I think that should be out relatively soon as you're hearing this. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, none of them did this. And then long time passed by, and we got a game called Sol Seraph, with SOL Seraph, which was meant to be a spiritual successor. It had this element of like a hack and slash and then a city builder. The problem was they weren't very good. It was just, the city building stuff was unintuitive, uninspired. It wasn't fun to do. I think the problem was everyone thought we got to make it more challenging in this respect than what ActRaiser was. And the secret is, no, it works because it's kind of fun and goes down easy, not because it's a slog. So yeah, I was super excited to get my hands on that because I'm like, I really wanted to recreate this experience, but unfortunately, it's just not the same. It's not that experience. So, and then lo and behold, we got ActRaiser Renaissance. Which is a remake of this original game. It has the side-scrolling stages and the city building stuff, which have been expanded upon. It adds to the city building stuff this tower defense thing, which is where every once in a while monsters will come and attack your city, and you have to build defensive things like catapults and towers to keep them at bay, while your villagers try to fight them off and stuff, and you have to manage that. It's interesting to try and add that into the game. Unfortunately, it sort of adds an unnecessary complication. It kind of interrupts the flow. So I appreciate the effort, and there's some interesting ideas to that. I think in the execution, it just sort of took away from what I wanted. I wish there was more depth maybe to the building or more to do rather than just here, give me yet a third gameplay mode I now have to deal with, which was sort of so it messed up that kind of beautiful balance in the game. The other thing is it's way too talky. It has a lot of just constant interruptions from your villagers praying to you and telling you stuff that's like, okay, let me just play this game. I don't need all of this backstory. Now you went too far in the other direction. And then they try to give you each land has a champion character who they try to build more pathos into. The one cool thing they did do is they added another land. So after you finish the game, you get to go to a brand new continent with new issues. It's more complex to deal with than the others. The other thing they added, I think, is when you defeat a monster layer, the guys don't just come out and seal it. You actually go down there and do a little more hacking and slashing, which is fine. It's a little extra stuff. It's fine. The one thing I will say for it is that the retooled soundtrack for it is just top shelf, just incredible music. And again, I mentioned Koshiro came back to score it and score new pieces. The cool thing is, you can switch back and forth at any time between this beautiful, full orchestrated version and the 16-bit original score. And he used the tool set that he created for the 16-bit score, the original 16-bit score, to take the new compositions and then devolve them back into 16-bit. So you have an entire 16-bit score even for the new pieces. There is stuff there to recommend ActRaiser's Renaissance, but it's definitely not quite as good as the original. It's subtraction by addition. So that's kind of it on ActRaiser. I really did just want to do a little, give you a little something, like I said, because we didn't get to do this Crash Bandicoot episode. So sorry about that. But to make up for this short episode on something you weren't expecting, I'm giving you a gigantic episode next week for Christmas. Next week comes out our episode on Batman Returns. We are revisiting the world of Michael Keaton for, I think, a really awesome Christmas movie because it's got Batman in it. And I think you'll like that discussion. It's a lot of fun. It's already recorded and edited as you're hearing this. So really excited for you to hear the Batman Returns episode. That's going to be followed up by one on Ghostbusters. And we have episodes on the horizon on A League of Their Own, Matchbox 20, and Mitch Hedberg, just to name a few. There's a few other things kind of in the works as well. So I'm really excited to what Nostalgia Arcanum is going to have on offer in 2024. And thanks again for spending this little extra time with me. Like I said, didn't expect to do this little short episode, but hey, I didn't want to leave you hanging with nothing on a Monday. So that's it. Thank you again. And admin stuff, of course. If you like the show, you can leave feedback at or contact us through our social media portals. There's links to that in all of the show notes. I will mention that I've started posting on TikTok, doing impressions in addition to our regular bonus reels. So if you want to see me goofing around and doing that, go on there and let me know if there's impressions you want to hear, things you want to see us do. Let us know about that because we can put that out there for you. If you like the show, please rate, and review us wherever you found it. It just takes a few minutes to go on iTunes and drop us hopefully 5 stars and let us know what you think because that helps increase the podcast visibility. And so yeah, that and tell a friend, of course, if you like it. So that's about it. Thanks again, and until next time, that is one more entry in the Nostalgia Arcanum.
Tina,
Yes?
I listen to everyone's prayers, and
Yes.
each prayer is answered in its own way.
Yes. Yes?
And I was wondering if you would try to not pray so much.
Well, now, I thought you liked me to pray as much as possible.
How shall I put this? If you could concentrate your prayers on just the most important things, life and death, temptation, and save the prayers like, "Dear Jesus, be with me as I vacuum the stairs." "Dear Jesus, fill me with your spirit as I sponge off the slip covers," things like that. It would just make things a lot simpler, Tina.
You mean that I shouldn't have asked you to help Blair with her algebra test?
No, actually, algebra's going to be very important to Blair later on. That's actually okay.
Then what? I'm confused. I'm confused now. I am.
Tina, all I'm saying is prayers like, "Please don't let the rice get sticky,"
Yeah.
I mean, do you really need my help with stuff like that? See, Oh.
I'm very, very, very sorry. I guess I was just wasting your time. I certainly wish you'd told me about this sooner.
Well, I thought about it and I decided to finally say something.
Oh, God, I'm so embarrassed.
Well, believe me, there are 1 billion people with the same problem. Oh.
Don't look at me now. Just don't look at me.
You know what? This was a mistake. Can we just forget this ever happened?
Can I forget? Can I forget the day that Jesus walked right into my kitchen?